Okay. We are back. We're going to jump into Jimmy Butler now. Jimmy Butler dropped 56 points in this game, game 4, against Milwaukee in Miami, to put the Milwaukee Bucks on the brink of elimination in this NBA playoffs. I can't remember an upset that would be quite as big as this. This does feel on the level to me as the We Believe Warriors upsetting the Dallas Mavericks with the MVP, Dirk Nowitzki. This feels like it would be an absolutely monumentous upset in so many ways. And I think it's worth diving into how this is happening with Jimmy Butler and why this is happening on some level with Jimmy Butler. So I think that to do that first, it's worth giving some context on Milwaukee's defense. Milwaukee obviously has an elite defense in the NBA. And I don't want to necessarily take anything away from that. They finished 4th this year in defensive efficiency. They do a phenomenal job in so many ways of guarding the ball, of playing in help defense, of protecting the rim. But as much as anything, the Milwaukee Bucks are a defense that relies on you taking shots in the spots they want you to take shots. And when you are in the areas that they don't want you to take shots, they are going to get maximum ability to contest. It sounds easy, but it's actually not in the NBA. And part of the reason that Milwaukee is able to do it is because they have maybe the best point of attack defender in the NBA in Drew Holiday, and arguably the best drop coverage rim protector in the NBA in Brook Lopez. And then on top of it, they also have a Greek 6'11" guy with a 7'5" wingspan who can fly across the baseline and cover the entire baseline all by himself at once. They're able to make you essentially take shots from the mid-range more often than other teams. So statistically, and a lot of this is going to come from Ben Falk's terrific site, Cleaning the Glass, the Milwaukee Bucks held teams to the worst effective field goal percentage in the NBA this season at 52%. They do that by keeping teams away from the rim. Teams only took 28.7% of their shots this season against Milwaukee at the basket. That was 3rd best in the NBA. They also keep teams off of the three-point line. Only 33.7% of their opponents' attempts came from behind the three-point line. That was 5th best in the league. And part of why they're so successful is they really limit corner threes. Teams only took 6.6 corner threes per game against the Milwaukee Bucks this season. In part, that's because Giannis is able to traverse the baseline as a help defender in the way that he is. In part, it's because of the way they crash down from the wings to stop those corner three-point shots. It's a frequency game and a shot chart game for Milwaukee. You look through it, like they're 7th in rim percentage against. They hold teams to 35.7% from three. They really don't always, there's not like any category in terms of the shot chart, in terms of percentage made, where they are truly elite, top 5 in the league. There's one spot, though, where they are. It's on long mid-range twos. Teams only shot 39% on them on long mid-range twos. And to me, that number is a little bit fluky. I think that number is a little bit of fool's gold, in part because to me, it's not fool's gold because they are forcing guys to get to that spot. And some of the guys they force to get to that spot are not the players you want to get to that spot. Having said that, a lot of the time it is the guys that they want to get to that spot. It's the best ball handlers in the league. And they are taking long twos because Milwaukee wants them to take long twos. Obviously, every team in the league wants you to take long twos. This is not breaking news. This is not like a new fad, right? It's just that Milwaukee is better at it than anybody, and they sell out more to do it, in my opinion, than anybody else. Their goal is to try and close out heavy on the three-point line, if you watch their tape, and it's to filter everything toward Brook Lopez, because Brook Lopez is an incredible rim protector. That sets the stage for Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is a great finisher at the rim, but If you leave him open from three, he will take it, as we will see momentarily here. But that's not his game. His game is to get into those mid-range areas. He's ecstatic to take those shots. He is fantastic at making those shots. He's a tough shot maker. That is who Jimmy Butler is. And now we're going to compound that with the on-ball factor of Milwaukee. Let's jump in here and start looking at the tape. And what you're going to see here is something that I noted on the last show where I talked about Jimmy Butler dominating the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks do not have anybody, if Giannis is not 100%, to guard Jimmy Butler. Drew Holiday, I think, is genuinely the best point of attack defender in the NBA. He is the best defender of guards in the NBA. Jimmy Butler is a little bit too big for him, and Jimmy Butler can elevate over the top of him, as you will see here. So this is like exactly defensively what Milwaukee wants. Milwaukee is trying to filter Jimmy Butler here toward Brook Lopez at the basket. So Brook can be there if he tries to finish at the rim, and Drew is sticking to Jimmy's hip so he can be there to contest the mid-range jumper. The problem is Jimmy Butler is 6'7" and can just shoot up over the top of Drew Holiday. That is a significant problem for the Milwaukee Bucks. And it's a significant problem because Milwaukee does not have anybody else that they can really put on him unless Giannis is 100% healthy and able to play. So on this play here, what you're going to see is transition play. Jimmy is going to go. Still going. He's going to get Chris Middleton isolated on a wing with essentially an empty side of the court. Chris Middleton is not the defender he used to be. Chris Middleton at one time was not quite an all NBA, like all defense defender. He was a drastically above average defender. Right now, he is not that. And what you will see here is Jimmy is just going to take this little slip action from Kevin Love, and he's going to go, and he is just going to dunk all over Giannis and get all the way to the rim, because there's a bit of a miscommunication there with Giannis and Chris, and there was a bit of a leverage issue for Chris trying to get through that slip action, right? So here again, Giannis misses this shot, rebound. This is where I just want to point out that Jimmy Butler's work off the ball in this series, I think, has been absolutely incredible. There was another play that I didn't grab that was kind of a give and go with Jimmy, where he just gets into the rim and beats Giannis backdoor in this game that I thought was super impressive. But here, you're just going to see Jimmy. He's going to beat Giannis down the court. Again, Brook Lopez is right there. This is a shot that Milwaukee, based on their own defensive principles, is going to be fine with Jimmy taking. The problem is that Jimmy Butler is very good at those shots, and those shots are going to go more often than they aren't for him. Here we go. Jimmy Butler going to come up. Drew Holiday gets caught in this screening action against Kevin Love. He recovers out. They're going to set a double drag here, followed by basically a reversal of a screen and then another screen. And you're just putting Drew Holiday here through the ringer. The big issue now is that Bobby Portis is the guy in drop coverage. And Bobby Portis, great offensive player, really important for them in terms of their second unit offense. Not a great defensive player. Has improved defensively within their drop coverage scheme, but it's a little bit too easy to shoot over the top of them, as Jimmy Butler shows here again with that left elbow jumper. We're going to go through here again. Jimmy gets the ball. This is just a pure miscommunication. If you give Jimmy all of this space and let him get downhill, eventually Joe Ingles recognizes it. He steps up, kind of makes a weird move there, fouls him, and one for Jimmy Butler. Again, though, that area of the court, that's the spot where Milwaukee wants him to shoot. Jimmy's making them. Here, this is Giannis. My idea for what Milwaukee could do in this series in order to try and combat Jimmy Butler was to put Giannis on him more. There were a couple of possessions where I thought Giannis had a bit of success. There was a left wing pull-up three-pointer where Giannis got like a full-on contest. Jimmy, I believe, airballed it by like 2 feet. Giannis maybe got a piece of it. But the key is that Giannis is the lifeblood of Milwaukee's offense, and you can't have him necessarily guarding Jimmy Butler and also being that offensive key while also having an injured back. And here you're just going to see Jimmy takes that pound dribble down, hits that little step back. It feels like because Giannis's back is maybe not quite 100% at this point, he is not as twitchy as he is off of that back foot, getting out to contest. And this is just another easy bucket for Jimmy Butler. Here we go again. This is going to be a transition opportunity. This is where Jimmy Butler is just going to get, I believe that is Grayson Allen isolated on the left wing. And at this point, he's telling everybody, just get the hell away from me. Milwaukee does a good job. They have Drew Holiday come up, try and double, try and get the ball out of Jimmy's hands. It's just at that point, once it's Grayson Allen on him, picking him up in transition, it's too late. That's an easy bucket for Jimmy Butler. Here we go again. This is just an awesome, intelligent play from Miami where Bam Adebayo brings the ball up the court. And this is matchup hunting. This is very clearly Miami trying to get a specific circumstance where Jimmy Butler is not being guarded by Drew Holiday on this play. Here, Drew goes for the steal on Bam in that little action there. Bam is really sharp here. This is an awesome, awesome play where he gets Drew Holiday stuck on his back. He forces that switch from Drew Holiday. And now it goes back out to Jimmy. Now Jimmy's on Brook Lopez, and this is curtains. This is just, I'm going to out leverage this guy. I'm going to beat him to the rim. And once I do that, he's stuck in recovery. He's trying to do what he can to stick in front of me. I'm going to pivot. I'm going to score that way. Here we go. Jimmy Butler again. That's a shot that Milwaukee wants you to take. Genuinely, based on their defensive principles, that's a shot Milwaukee is very comfortable with you taking. Jimmy Butler makes it because the screen there is just absolutely terrific. Again, here we go. Coming down near the end of the game here. 7 minutes left. This is Chris Middleton on Jimmy Butler. Again, Chris Middleton was a great defender at one point. There's a reason that Jimmy is sending everybody to the other side of the court. He just out leverages Chris. Not really even a strong contest there from Chris Middleton. I know that Chris thinks he's probably feeding him directly into Brook Lopez, into the help here. But Jimmy, again, is comfortable taking that little 6-foot floater as opposed to going all the way to the basket like many players do in that circumstance. So you're just going to see there that Chris Middleton thinks he's feeding him into the help because he can't actually stop him. That's not going to work here. And again, Chris Middleton gets the switch onto Jimmy Butler. This is just Jimmy out leveraging him, beating him with his first step, drawing the foul. Easy bucket for Jimmy Butler. It's hard. I mean, if you're Milwaukee, I don't really know what you do here, right? So again, they try to get the switch with Middleton. It feels like there's a bit of a miscommunication with Drew going under that screen. And this is Jimmy just pulling up for three. It's probably not a miscommunication. I'm sure that they're trying to go under Jimmy Butler's screens because Jimmy is not necessarily always going to take those 3-point opportunities. But here, he just takes that shot. It's easy money. And then gets the rebound, brings the ball up the court. Again, this is Jimmy Butler, just at his finest. Nobody picks up the ball. Drew Holiday is playing from behind. He gets that little step back. I'm sure that's a shot he's taken a million times in rhythm. And it's just pretty simple. And then he's celebrating, talking about how this is his house. And indeed it was his house. And this is his house in Miami. So what does Milwaukee do here is a really great question. I don't have an answer. To me, the answer was to guard him more often with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Maybe. I think that could work. You could put 2 on the ball more often. I think that's a reasonable adjustment for Milwaukee. If you do that, though, Jimmy Butler is a high-level passer, and he is surrounded for the most part in Miami by high basketball IQ guys that will rotate and reverse the ball, like Kevin Love, like Max Strus, like Gabe Vincent, let alone Bam Adebayo, who's playing next to him. I do think that you have to put 2 on the ball a little bit more often. That's not, again, what Milwaukee likes to do necessarily. And you can't really do it if Brook Lopez is the primary guy in the action, because if Brook is the primary guy in the action and you're putting 2 on the ball, you are completely abandoning all of your primary defensive principles. That's not something that teams do in the playoffs. They are not trying to abandon what has gotten them there. They're trying to be elite at what makes them good. Do you try and send 2 with an off-ball defender, a help defender at the ball? Maybe you try and send Gabe Vincent's guy at him constantly. Even if it's a ball screen action, you play Brook in drop. You said Gabe Vincent's guy to him. Like, that's a real potential outcome, I think. It's a hard problem to solve, though, for Milwaukee's defense specifically, because of what their principles are and what their scheme is, and essentially what their muscle memory is in these plays. These guys are all great players, and I do think that they can figure it out. But I think that Jimmy Butler is going to continue to go off. The thing is that Jimmy Butler went off in this game, and it still required Miami to beat Milwaukee by 16 points in the fourth quarter to win by 5. Milwaukee was up double digits, it felt like, I think, until the 7-minute mark of this game, with 7 minutes left remaining in this game. Miami has much less room for error than Milwaukee does in this series. Even with all that I just broke down, all that I explained about how I think Jimmy Butler is going to continue to absolutely crush Milwaukee, all that Milwaukee has to do is shoot a normal percentage from three there. If they go 15 for 40 from three instead of 13 for 40 from three, it's like, 36%, basically. That's a normal number for Milwaukee. They win this game. If Miami stops shooting 40% from three, like it feels like they have in every game outside of game 2, if I remember correctly. I'll look up the box score as we're talking there. Even in game 2, Miami shot 44% from three. So I'm sorry. Super high levels from three. So at the end of the day, what this comes down to is if Miami stops shooting this well from three, or if Milwaukee just makes a couple more buckets, Milwaukee has the margin for error here when Giannis is on the court, and they can easily rip off 3 straight games. The problem is that now they're backed into a corner and they have to do it for 3 straight games. There can be no uncertainty here. There can be no messing around. They're 11.5-point favorites at home in game 5. I'd imagine they will be favored in all 3 of these games. They were the number 1 seed in the NBA this season. They have the margin for error here, despite the fact that they don't have anybody to guard Jimmy Butler. And yeah, you can point to the fact that maybe Miami's threes have been a little bit more open than what they have been throughout the course of the season, right? There are a lot of different things you can point to here that will tell you that Miami is going to win one of these 3 games. Miami has the 25th offensive rating in the league. They take a ton of threes, but you know what? They shot 34.4% on them this season. Thus far, they're shooting 45%, I think, from 3 in this series. If that stops, things get easier for Milwaukee. Milwaukee can start its transition break a little bit easier, more often off of missed shots. Giannis can be that freight train out in transition that we're used to seeing more often, even with his back injury or hip injury. I forget what it is. I'm sorry. Out of missed shots. If you miss the ball more often, it creates more transition opportunities for your opponent. That's what Milwaukee loves. Milwaukee loves getting that early offense. It's a big part of why their offense thrives in the regular season. They get those early offensive opportunities and they go. In the playoffs, you typically need higher level half-court shot creators because there are more half-court possessions in the playoffs. I still don't think we've seen the normal amount of half-court possessions, even for a playoff series for Milwaukee. They should be able to get out in transition as soon as Miami stops missing threes. But the problem is now that if Miami goes 45% from 3 in one more game, the margin for error for Milwaukee then drops down to 0. And that is why we're in the predicament we're in. But Jimmy Butler deserves his flowers, has been one of the best players in the NBA for 7 or 8 years now. Certainly one of the best playoff performers, continues to rise to the occasion, thrive in these big moments. And in part, it's because of this well-rounded offensive game that he can bring out the mid-range jumper, ability to make shots at the rim, high-level passing ability, high-level pick-and-roll play. All of it comes together for Jimmy Butler. And that 56-point performance was one of the best performances I've ever seen in an NBA playoff game against the defense that is that good.